Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Off the Track, episode number 38. We are back for another Wednesday show. I'm your host, Tanner Holmes, and with me today, also on the mic, is my best buddy and co-host, Bennett Gooch. Bennett, how's life been?
Pretty good. I actually got, the first time in a long time, a schedule put together for the dwarf car. Gonna be releasing that soon, and finishing up some little things here to get my season rolling underway. We put on a pretty big rodeo, and that's taking place next month, so we're gonna try to get that taken care of, and then we're gonna get ready to be full swing summertime racing. So I'm looking forward to it, and I've been following along with your racing this year, and I just love the outdoor season. What can I say?
Absolutely. And speaking of dwarf cars, man, it seems like some of the dwarf car racings kind of got underway. When we were racing in Stockton, they were there, and I feel like they were running in Wairika. And it's really cool to see that scene growing left and right. Just a lot of my Oregon buddies that I've been talking to, the main thing is they're selling their current race car, and they're trying to get into dwarf cars. So to see that class grow, it'll be really interesting, just the direction it heads like in the next 5 years.
Yeah, Wairika just started kicking their stuff off. Southern Oregon's set to kick off, the Southern Oregon Dwarf Car Series at Southern Oregon Speedway is supposed to kick off, I think, that this 23rd or 28th, right?
I think it's the 23rd. Yeah, is their first
23rd,
night.
yeah. So we were going to try to shoot to hit that. But I think we don't want to put ourselves in a time crunch. So we're just going to start our season at the end of May, because we're going to get through rodeo first. But no, like you said, dwarf cars are in full swing. I've been seeing a great car count down in Central California, Southern Oregon, and up north. I can't wait to actually go run Coos Bay. I think that'll be my first track of the season. So maybe some redemption after what happened last year. But no, like you said, the class is growing and people are coming out in numbers.
Yeah, and more money is on the line than ever. So maybe some bigger payout shows come into that class here soon. I've talked to some guys that are kind of trying to make that happen. So that is just really exciting for dirt track racing as a whole. The more money involved, the more people involved, the more cars involved. That's all a really good sign. As Bennett said, my season has kind of been in full swing the last couple of weeks. We wrapped up Red Bluff, which we talked about in the last couple of podcasts. And now, everybody is just at the time of year, and especially early in the season when everyone's really, eager to get back at it. It's all about, what racetrack is running this weekend and how many races can you hit, and, all the different combinations. Here along the West Coast, Oregon and Washington season has not started. I guess technically Cottage Grove has actually had 2 races, but they've both been limited sprint shows. Their 360 race this last weekend rained out. So they've had a couple of races, but other than that, no other track has got started. Washington is set for their first race this Saturday at Grays Harbor, which we plan on attending, but the weather's not looking good. I think I checked. It's literally supposed to snow up there this week, maybe. It was snowing at my house today, which was crazy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw on your social media it was snowing there today. They actually closed from Weed or maybe Wairika to the Oregon border. Up
really?
on
I didn't see that.
tonight. It actually, because I just got off work a bit ago, it was getting cold, and we got a frost freeze warning or whatever. It's kind of weird because, we were in some decent 80, almost 90 degree temperature. Now it's snowing again. So I don't know what's going on in Cali.
It's crazy. And the weather everywhere doesn't really look good this weekend. And as you just mentioned, I just came from Tulare where it was 100 degrees on Friday. And now, I'm back home and it snowed all day and actually stuck for a little bit. So the next 5 days will be really interesting throughout the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. And as I was saying, I'm not sure what tracks are going to run. Elma, they're scheduled to race. Looks like it's probably going to rain out. Cottage Grove has a wingless 360 show. I think that's their season opener for the wingless sprint series here in the Northwest. I'm pretty sure that's going to rain out. Medford's got Play Day, which if all else fails, if they do run, I think we might take Carly out there to run her limited to get back in the swing of things. And I was even thinking backup plan, I might try to contact someone with a Hornet and see if I can run some laps on Saturday if they even get to run. But as everywhere else is experiencing, it's supposed to snow here and rain. So there's a good chance Medford's play day will get rained out. California. Oh, good.
Well, I was gonna say it's funny you mentioned the Hornet there. I just because you mentioned it, it popped into my mind. I actually got a reader on my Hornet that I was gonna put together for Shasta Speedway. All I need is like a $30 part, and I think it'll run. So we might be back. I thought it was blown up, so we might be back in the action here at Shasta Speedway, 10 minutes from the house. So that's a possibility still.
That would be sick. That would be really, really neat. You might have to, heck, almost have to make that like a series. You know, Shasta, I've seen some pretty gnarly moments there between a couple of the different divisions. So
yeah, they put the cone up at the top of the track. Leader has to run the top there,
above the cone.
It's actually sick.
That's incredible. So yeah, you'll have to keep us updated on the podcast about that. The other tracks in California trying to run, Marysville's running Saturday, Placerville's running Saturday, as far as sprint cars go, and then Watsonville's running on Friday. But I don't think we're going to get to Watsonville or Placerville. If you're listening to the podcast, you'll get a little exclusive behind the scenes because I haven't said this anywhere. But I think if Marysville does end up running, our goal is for Carly and I to both run there on Saturday night. That's kind of the plan. We haven't announced it yet, and just because Elma hasn't technically rained out, but it's not really looking too good. But we'll keep you guys updated on kind of what everything's looking like. After this weekend in Elma, we're planning on running next weekend up there, and then Cottage Grove has their spring fling, so we'll have some 360 shows. And then throughout May, it's going to be really chaotic. Like Skagit has their first 410 race, then Peter Murphy Classic weekend, then fastest 4 days in motorsports with KWS. So there's going to be like a lot of fans and drivers traveling all throughout these 3 states here on the Pacific, you know, as far as trying to race 410s and actually a good amount of money on the line, thanks to Peter Murphy and a lot of other guys that have been really, really trying to grow the 410 scene out here. To jump into a little bit of a recap, so last weekend we ran my first race at Ocean Speedway Friday night and Saturday at Stockton. And Bennett and I have both been to Ocean before. When we were there, you can agree probably, it did not go that good, and I didn't leave there with a positive outlook, but surprisingly this time I left with a much better outlook on the place than before.
Yeah, I think I felt like going into it this year, a complete reset from last year. There's a lot of I feel like, I don't know if this is how you felt. I wasn't even there, but watching the group chat with a bunch of us and our friends, and also watching on Flow, did you feel like when you're there is kind of more of just, you know, we're having fun going racing here?
Yeah, things just were different, you know, like a little bit of a different approach. Like we had a tough year last year. And also we haven't really ran a lot of tracks like that. We had tried to, but like they never had went well. And so it was almost like, as much as actually we were going to a track that technically was one of my worst places, I guess you could say, it was actually good to start the year with that and just like throw a big curveball at us. Like, let's just roll the dice and give it our best shot. We got a little bit of a different package. We got these factory cane shocks. We're trying something completely different with our car. Let's just kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, I know. Definitely. I was, you know, like I said, watching our group chat and whatnot. I think you and our close friend, Justin Sanders' little brother, he was doing pretty good and whatnot. And it was fun to watch you race because I know there's a little rivalry there and you got around him and whatnot. But you actually looked pretty good there too. And your new package was working. And that's what we want to see at the start of the year.
Yeah, and it got really rough, which I felt like my shocks helped me a lot. So to kind of explain here on the podcast, last year I was on a brand of shocks called QA1 in Slades. Good shocks. They're and also let me say, every shock does the same job. It's all about like getting the right numbers and whatnot. And those were a set of twin tubes. So twin tubes is one of the styles of shocks you can buy, and they were good. And that's all I had ran. But then I got to run those gas shocks at the end of last year that my buddy Caleb Montgomery owned. You guys saw at Hanford, and we ran really good. Completely different feeling. So after that, we ended up going and getting some factory cane gas shocks. Went to Ocean, and we got to test them. It was rougher than rough. I think in my my title of my video was "Holy Hell, it was rough," because that's literally what it was. We qualified 9th, ran 2nd in our heat race, and you know, Ocean being by the ocean, you know, the tide has a little bit to do with the track and moisture in the air. So like it was starting to slicken off. And then as the moisture came back in all like the little cars, like they threw the Hornets out there, they threw like the hobby stocks out there, those guys completely ripped up the track. So any chance of it going slick, those guys just brought it right back as the sun went down. We rolled out for the feature, like started ninth. And everybody, it was interesting, Bennett, when we were there last time, it slicked off like a ton.
Right.
And actually, no, it did rubber up. It rubbered up when we were there. So in the week before, if you were I was watching on Flow just to like see, what was going on for their first race, because when we ran Ocean was their second race of the year, and it actually got pretty slick, and it was a good show between, I think, Sanders and Carrick.
It was, yep.
For the win. And so they got battling, and I got to see that, and I'm like, okay, so even though it was hooked up to start that night, maybe for our race it'll also slicken off. But kind of with how our car is, I run a KPC, which they're known for being just a little bit tighter. So we ran a ton of stagger. We kept our car free for the feature. There's massive holes in the track, and everyone thought it was going to blow off. Everyone I talked to, even guys that ran their weekly. So they all set up a little bit tighter. We kept our car free, and it just got heavier throughout the feature almost, like just still gripped up. So we got into traffic real quickly. I kind of ran ninth early and eventually just started picking off cars through traffic. And it was actually a lot of fun. As much as I always talk about how much I hated rough tracks, like when our car was good on it, I kind of had a blast. Like I won't lie. It was really cool to get to pass a lot of cars and some good cars and be able to not worry about just constantly flipping over because you're too tight, which is easy to do on a track like that.
I believe you finished fourth, right?
Yeah, we ran, I think it was Tanner Carrick, Bud Kading, Max Mitri, then us.
Yeah, okay. And then Justin's little brother was fifth, I think.
Yes, Ricky was fifth, which was cool. Ricky has only ran a couple races, and for him to run fifth at a weekly Ocean show, there was 27 cars, so pretty solid field. And honestly, the only thing I was mad about is I think I could have ran third. I kind of got lucky. I was running fifth. Justin Sanders got together with a lap car, so I moved up to fourth, and I had a shot at third, but I caught an infield tractor tire just trying a little bit too hard. But that was a good way to start our season, especially at a track I said, I'll be clear, I was not good at, and I really never really cared to go back to. But it was a little bit different this time. I had a different package, and I just felt so much better. Like, even when I was making laps around the track, I just felt comfortable. I felt like the first time I was there, how small the place really got to me, but this time it felt much larger. I felt like I was more aware of, where I was at, and, just Ocean was a little bit better to the 18T. So that was our first night of the season. Start ninth, run fourth, +5, pretty much no complaints. And to be running behind the guys we ran behind, I mean, they're pretty stellar race car drivers that have been running down there for a long time. So just gives you something to shoot to get better for. Complete change of pace, though. We go from racing in Ocean, and then we go to Stockton. Bennett, have you ever been to Stockton, just like the city itself, before?
So I've been to Stockton. I've been to Sac. I've been to either inner city, out city. Either way you look at it, I don't ever care to go back. But the Stockton Dirt Track, on the other hand, I've not been to the actual track itself.
Yeah, so I hadn't either, and I can agree with the first thing you said. I honestly don't care to really go back to the place. Like, everyone had kind of told me, but I'd never been to Stockton. So we're rolling through. We pull off the exit. I don't even know what we were on. Maybe, no, it wasn't I-5. I don't know. But so anyway, we turn off. We're rolling through what is Stockton, and I'm looking out the window, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we are in the ghetto.
Yeah.
Like it was ghetto.
Oh yeah.
It's bad. It's like you're watching crime take place, like on the streets. And I know people that live probably in the area, that's just their life. I get that. I totally respect that. It's just someone that's an outsider like me. I grew up in a small town where there's just a couple thousand people. Like we're all just kind of doing our own thing or whatever. Like you can just tell right away. And it's real tight. We're trying to drive our rig that is way too long through this tiny town, trying to turn off. And, you got to be careful. Everyone's kind of being crazy. And luckily, every California track for the most part is on fairgrounds. So we get to the fairgrounds. We kind of had to like go around the block and stuff. We're trying to make sure we don't turn down the wrong road to where we end up in the wrong area or whatnot. But so we get into the fairgrounds, and once you're in the fairgrounds, you are good. I will say that. They still kind of advise like make sure you lock up your stuff, shut your trailer up before the main event, all those things, and we did. So walked up to the track and looked at it for the first time. Like, all right, this is actually gonna be really fun. I love big places, and Stockton's just a little bit shy of a half mile. Mm-hmm. But it's different. It is different, and it's shaped kind of weird. It races really weird. The dwarf cars were there with us that night, and I think that was one of the few support classes.
Is it pretty flat?
It is. It looks like it's so hard to describe. It looks really big, but when you get out there, it definitely gets smaller, and the banking sometimes doesn't get used all the way, depending on how the track runs. So we start the night out there, and other thing, I will compliment the track. I know I just talked bad about the city it's in, but the track itself, it's actually a really cool setup. So like the pits or the grandstands are massive, and they overlook the pits. And so all the fans can almost like see the pit area, which I really like. It's very accessible, very well set up for that interaction. So I will give that, because a lot of places I've been to in California are not like that. So we go out there. I'll be completely honest, I was like horrible my first laps back in a 410, just not running one since September. The front end's really light. Stockton felt very fast after running Ocean. And so it just took me like the first half of the night to even get going. On top of that, I drew a really bad pill, so I was like the 22nd car out to qualify. It slickened off a little bit. I didn't really run the greatest line, but my laps were definitely better than hot laps. My hot laps were worse than my first laps even ever in a 410. So get through that, qualify like 20th or 21st. Heat race, Bennett, we literally burned up tires in the heat race, or for the most part. Like most everyone burned off tires in the heat race. Like 8 laps, junk. Dismount them.
Yeah, I know Stockton usually goes pretty slick, and then at least every race I've seen there for 410s, it usually takes rubber by the dash or the main event.
Yeah, it's just, and it's weird because even though it was slickening off, the surface was still fast. Like it was still grippy. So anyway, we burned up tires. Racing wasn't very good in the heats. I was already kind of like, I'm pretty frustrated at this point because the nights just kind of not really went that good. There was other tracks racing, and I was like, man, we maybe should have just went to like Placerville or something. Because of frustration, if I'm being honest, but it was still good that we went to Stockton, kind of like, all right, get out of that mentality. Like we have an A main event to go run. Right. So we put on different tires. I'm like, we're fully expecting the track to go slick. So we're going to try to like change bars. Like we're going to kind of throw the kitchen sink at it to just try to get it better. And when we do this, all of a sudden they pull the tiller out. Till it, water it, everything. Till the whole track. Now it's juiced up. They go out for the dash. They're running faster times than qualifying in the dash. So now it's fast again. So we still take our bars out. We're like, all right, we're going to set this car up kind of similar to what we did at Ocean. Let's just try it, see how it goes, because we're going to go to a lot of bigger tracks. And I feel like our package, I haven't mentioned, I guess, but Brian Crockett is helping us this year. One of the winningest drivers in Placerville history. A lot of experience just throughout the Northwest. Track prep guy, driver, car owner, has done it all. So he's helping us this year, and I feel like he's really helped our package on a couple of these small places that we've ran. We haven't done a lot of races together, but a lot of them have been at bull rings, and we haven't got a chance to go to a place like Stockton. So we kind of put something on similar to what we did at Ocean to keep the car free, because even though we're going much faster, it's still hooked up, and you still can't be tight behind other cars for an A main event when you're rolling off 20th. So go out for the main. I screw up first lap going into turn 1, fly off the track, fall back to like 24th, 25th, last almost, or I was last. And then slowly just start picking guys off one by one, working our way back through the field. And like I said, we are flying around this place. It's like a qualifying track. But we were still able to make moves, and a lot of guys were too tight, so we used that to our advantage and double foul restarts. So by the time everything shook out, we ended up running 13th from 20th, but technically like last because first corner we're running last.
Right.
So that was actually pretty cool. I felt like our car was good. There's a lot of things I could have done better watching it back, but definitely that was, no matter how the surface wasn't great and the night didn't go good, it was good that we went to Stockton and ran that 410 show, because especially now that this last weekend canceled the 410 race, that means I wouldn't have got to run a 410 until May. And I kind of needed that first night to just like get rid of my crappy driving, right. Get back in the swing and just figure it out. And all right, this is how I need to be driving the car.
My question is there. I haven't been, and I don't know if it's just from the stream or whatnot, but is it pretty dark at night there on the track?
The lighting is not very good. It's definitely not and that was part of why I flew off the track, and also because I just followed someone off. But yeah, it's difficult to see, and it's just like, it's hard to see like what the track is doing kind of, because like it's not completely dark, but it's just not bright.
Right.
It's not super clear.
Right. Yeah, like you said though, knocking the rust off in a 410, I feel like even Donnie Schatz maybe he's hopping back in a 410 off of the maybe couple week break that he gets throughout the year, and he's like, it's probably good to hop back in before you can kind of start hitting your marks again. So, I was looking forward to actually seeing you guys run Hanford, because I mean I really like Hanford, and I'm really like what Hanford's doing this year, and Peter's really stepping up the facility down there, and I can't wait to go run there in October. Hopefully, it's on my list. But I think you'll be definitely ready to get back behind the wheel of the 410, and you know what you got to do.
100%. And speaking, that's a perfect segue into this next weekend, Hanford, and where we were supposed to run. So we move on from Stockton, get out of Stockton safely. That's keyword, because it's nighttime. It's nighttime too, so that's even worse. Like I said, we're in this super nice rig driving out of Stockton, California. Get on the freeway, make it home. Dad's trucking home. So go through our first week of maintenance and washing and all that. Everything's going good, And these weeks are a little bit tougher when you run California 2 nights, because you go Friday, Saturday, get home Sunday, turn around, leave again Thursday. So that's what we did. And we go to Tulare on Friday. And I think, Bennett, you can agree with me. Tulare's honestly possibly my favorite California track. I know you just talked about Hanford. I love Hanford too, but man, there's something when Tulare's good, Tulare is cool.
Yeah, I'll 100% agree with you there. I've seen, Tulare the few times we've been down there. Tulare is always, I feel like, some tracks you can go to and you can know what to expect, but Tulare I feel like is kind of always different. The bump into 1 and 2, you got to get through that sometimes. 3 and 4 as well, up off of the exit off 4. Like you said, sometimes you're stellar on top at Tulare, and sometimes you're just catfishing the bottom and you're pulling on people. I wish I could have made it down there, and I didn't get to watch the main event there. But I did see some of your stuff on Instagram, like the clips and stuff you guys have been posting. But I'll agree with you. Standing and watching Tulare when it gets on the fence, and you can watch someone on the bottom too. Tulare's definitely one of the most raciest tracks, I think, in California.
And I think the thing you noted being different is so accurate, because it just, you never know what to expect. And they have this weird track prep idea about it. And I don't know if I really agree with it, but sometimes it does make it interesting. When you show up there and when you go out in mud pack, it's not mud pack, it's dust pack. You're just packing like dust. They don't really water it a lot to start the night for weekly shows usually. And so hot laps is usually really marbly and crumbly, and qualifying is the same way. So this last weekend, it was already on the fence in 3 and 4, on the wall almost. And then 1 and 2 was complete slick and just complete dust. It was the weirdest thing. Times were 15, right on the board. I think it was a 14.9 and 15.0. So you're just right in the 15-second bracket. We qualified 13th, so we missed the inversion by 1 spot, which is so frustrating, because your whole night can be different if you're just, maybe a little bit better on your best lap, which it was weird. Tulare, with our different setup that we've kind of been aiming for, we were really good on the curb. By far the best I've ever felt on a curb. My best corner at Tulare in qualifying I've ever ran, but in 1 and 2, where there wasn't really much to lean on, we weren't good at all. And it just couldn't figure out how to get the car grip and side bite specifically to where I wasn't just gliding and just stuck gliding through the corner. So we qualified 13th. Start 5th in the heat race. Track's the exact same. Slick. And instead, though, of kind of, the line we ran in qualifying, it kind of just made it towards momentum. So 1 and 2, you're kind of just rolling right through the middle, a little bit higher than the middle. And then 3 and 4, you're still running the top, just trying to keep momentum around. And as I talked about their weird track prep style, they then, after the heats, completely rework the track when the sun's down. So then it's pretty grippy for the feature. So with our poor qualifying and not really advancing through the heat, we rolled off 15th in the A. And Bennett and I have seen this place when it's stupid hooked up, and it luckily slickened off. It still went away, because sometimes the place can get a little bit narrow and real choppy, and that's when you see guys take rides.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the one cool thing about Tulare, and obviously we've all seen it with Rico, and we've seen it with some other drivers as well. when you have your car set up and like you said, to run the curb and it just feels really good on the curb, when you have it set up to run Tulare on the curb, I feel like you're so much faster, especially if you hit it correctly. But yeah, like you said, not optimal to not have it all the way around the track, but Tulare's just one of those places. It's always tricky, and it always provides for something spectacular.
100%. And it did in the A main event. Like, the service got really good. I started 15th, worked my way up to about 10th in the first half of the race. One thing I do like about the place is we usually get a lot of green flag laps. So we got rolling, gave me a chance to pass guys in same philosophy as like Ocean, same philosophy as Stockton. Keep the car free because the 18T just likes to be free. Give me a chance to move my wing back when I need to tighten up my own car, but we're better off to be on the free side, especially when we start that deep. And got into 10th and then just like kept picking guys off on restarts. We went 10th to 8th on a restart. It got called back because there was a yellow. And then the next time we went 10th to 6th in one corner because they all got bottled up. So we passed a lot of good cars, and we were honestly not far behind Sanders, Golovic, and Selzy, who were all up front at one point. They were a little bit better on the longer runs. They were just a little bit faster than me in general. But we weren't far off, so I thought that was promising. Had one late race restart and fell back to 7th just because of how shook up. I was trying to make an attempt to go for 4th and 5th and ended up losing a spot. But, man, good speed at Tulare. That was a fun place. Totally tried something different for the track conditions, similar to Ocean and Stockton, and it worked. So we're really hitting on something with our car. But this is where the story gets interesting. So after Tulare, we go to my buddy Zane Blanchard's shop, who's about 20 minutes away. It's 5 minutes from Hanford, where we're supposed to be running on Saturday. We get the car all torn apart, clean things up, change engines. I'm out till like 2 in, just putting in some hours, getting the car ready so we don't have to do much Saturday morning. I just want to wake up, finish, load the trailer. We'll be at the track by noon or 1 or whenever the gates open, and unload with a clean race car, dialed in, bolt checked, like it's ready to hit the track. All of a sudden we wake up and I'm like, all right, let's go outside, get like maybe a Gatorade or a water or something, and let's finish this car and load up, and the track's 5 minutes away. And Brian Crockett, who's helping us, is like, yeah, so I just got a text. Sounds like they might be canceling because of wind. I'm like, wait, what? And it was really windy. But man, what are the chances of getting winded out? Which I do understand because, we're running wing sprint cars. It's pretty dangerous. And we haven't really been to a race where wind has played a huge factor before, but it can be crazy.
Yeah, that like you said there, that's pretty bizarre. I've only seen one time Chico Silver Cup, I think in 2019. It was windy. I mean, really windy. And when you could see some cars bike up in 3 and 4, and the wind would just almost float them up a bit too. And you could see, because it was just a south to north wind. Down in the Central California area, it's really flat down there, so I could definitely see how it gets pretty windy. But yeah, like you said, pretty bizarre. But not only that, if you think about it, when you posted that you're pulling the trigger to go up north, I was like, how far away is that? Because I was like, oh, maybe it's not that far. But that was actually a pretty, if they didn't call it at the perfect time that they called it, I don't think you would have made Placerville.
No, I don't think so either. I really don't. Because that was at 9:30.
Right.
And then, so yeah, we woke up about 9:30, so we got enough sleep, and then they called it, I think, about 10, and we're like, shoot, we have the 4:10 already in the car.
And you're 4.5 hours away.
Yeah, we're way far away. Because everyone's like, oh, you're in the same, people would naturally think, oh, it's in California. You're in the same state.
Right. No,
California's huge.
Long. It's long.
And and not everything is right on I-5. So yeah, Hanford, where we were at, Bennett said, 4.5 hours away from Placerville, roughly. So we have to pull the engine out, put the 360 back in, and finish up some stuff on the car, change gears, get body on, just little things, but they do take time. We get everything loaded up by 11:15, 11:30, and we're driving straight to Placerville. We're going to make it. It was either that or Marysville. We knew Placerville would have a much better car count. In Marysville would be good too. It would be a good place to get some laps, but regardless, wherever we ended up, we were getting the chance to race. So Placerville's gates closed or gates opened, I think at 1 o'clock, and their driver's meeting was at 4:45. So we end up rolling in at 4:20. My buddy Joel Myers Jr. pulled my pill. I had called Placerville ahead of time and said, hey, we got an 80-foot rig coming. We're going to be there right before the driver's meeting. We're not asking for a spot up front. We're not asking for special anything. Just please have a place for us to park the rig because it's pretty tight. It is a little bit tight, and it's hard. You're going uphill. It's called Hangtown. And so promoter calls me back, hey, so-and-so's not racing tonight. We got a perfect spot for you. Just be here. You'll be dialed. I'm like, thank you. This is awesome. They accommodated us. That was very neat of them. They didn't have to do that. So we roll in, get my pill. Joel Myers pulled a 7 for me, so I was one of the first cars out for qualifying. So that was neat. And Placerville, let's talk about that for a second. What a place that is. It's a very nice facility. It's very clean. It's a crazy racetrack. I mean, it's got a lot of interesting features.
Yeah, when I went down there for the USAC Hangtown 100, so it's funny. My dad's best friend growing up actually lives literally as the crow flies, not even a mile, but you have to go around some of the roads there because, like you said, it's up in the hills and it's in a little valley. You park in this fairground structure thing, or not a structure. It's just you're parking in hills, you're on a hill the whole time. And so once you see Placerville, it's literally in a little pit, and it's cool because for the midgets it was awesome to watch. They could utilize the dirt wall and all that good stuff. I want to go down there for a sprint car. I actually had, I think, 2 or 3 shows on my schedule this year for the dwarf car, so I'm excited to go run there in the dwarf car. But no, like you said, it's really unique, and I think it's one of those places that you just got to go watch once in a while because the racing always tends to get pretty good too, up herb around the top or even the bottoms fast too. But how was it getting the 80-foot rig up there?
It was nuts. It was it wasn't actually horrible. My dad, luckily, is a master at it, but it was a couple of tight turns. Just you have to make sure you swing wide. And the pit spot they picked for us was perfect. We were able to just take a wide corner, get in because pretty much everybody was already there, which made it a little bit more difficult. Ideally, we tried to get to places. So it was you go through the pit gate, okay, and then we hung a left along the side of the trailers, and then we nosed into the fence on the right side to the left of the barn. So if you're looking at the pit area, we'd be on the right, I guess. But we were right behind the scales, so we were not far at all. Great spot. Ideally for Placerville, it was the perfect situation because sometimes when you go to new places, and that is, in my opinion, Placerville might be the most well-known track in California or one of the more well-knowns. It has a lot of good press, a lot of big events there. I would have been a little bit nervous, but how everything happened, we just had to roll in and race. There was no this or that or not knowing. I just went to the driver's meeting, and it was funny. Sometimes we kind of dread driver's meetings, but when you go to a new place, you actually try to listen just for little things as far as, usually where you enter and exit the track, but just make sure there's nothing you're missing. Yeah. And we went to the driver's meeting, and they just said everything's the same as normal. I'm like, okay.
It's like Red Bluff. We always say, okay, why do we have driver's meetings so often at Red Bluff? But for these out-of-town guys, they have no idea what we're doing here.
Yeah, you want to know. So I was like, okay, that was a good wake-up call. Now I totally get it. Even though I've been to driver's meetings all the time, everything's the same. But, they never said that we were doing double foul restarts, which I knew, luckily, because I watched Placerville. But that's another thing. If I would have just showed up, I would not have realized that until on the race receiver, all right, double up. But just little things that you don't think about. So they told us it was the same as normal. So go get in for mud pack. Mud pack, it was muddier than muddy. We had to pack for probably 15 or 20 minutes on a very small track with 40 cars, which was that was an experience. But I got the track rolled in, super greasy for hot laps, and didn't get a chance. That's the only thing that sucked about going out early. And it was pretty much greasy for everyone, but Placerville, there's so many cars out there for hot laps, you don't get a chance to really learn anything for your qualifying. I mean, kind of a little, but everything's happening so quick and the track's not good enough to be all right, we need to do this to make our car better, or at least if you go to Cottage Grove and you hot lap at the right time, you're all right, sweet. I figured out how to run this place wide open or what I need to do. Placerville was not like that at all. You were just trying to get your car to rotate through the corner. It was so greasy. So then, we got for qualifying, and I actually laid down a pretty good time for when we went out. Ended up 6th quick out of 38 sprint cars. Nailed 1 and 2. Little tight in 3 and 4, which maybe cost me a little bit of time, but overall, no complaints. I actually felt really good about my lap, and going out early helped a little, but even guys that went out late were pretty successful. So that was neat, especially because I knew that qualifying can be kind of a downer for our team sometimes. Like, that's something that I've struggled with, but I was like, dang, really got going there. Heat races were pretty single file. We started 3rd, ran 4th because the bottom was still greasy, so we kind of all single filed out, and you just had to run in the top 4, and then you get your time back.
Watching the heat race, who was it that you were kind of rolling on under the bottom of?
Me and Tanner. Tanner started on my outside. Yeah. I was almost had a shot at him. Maybe if I had a little bit more of a run, but one, I didn't want to push it too hard, but also, like, it's tough when you're like, I know how hard I need to be driving, but like, I didn't know like what the limit was, like not the limit, but like never running there, like, just exactly what you can do, which kind of bit me later in the night as what ended up happening.
Well, I have a question for you. So tight bull ring like that, stuff happens quick. You have 8 laps and top 5 go to the feature. Did you feel the urgency there that maybe you would feel kind of like a Red Bluff in a heat race?
Oh, same thing completely. And actually, I think, so this weekend, I don't know if it was because there was more cars, but they were only taking 4 to the feature.
It was 4. You're right. That was my bad.
And so, like, you can't fall out. And I knew, talking to everyone, they said kind of if you single file out, you'll be good, which is a little bit similar to Red Bluff, but tons of urgency because, you have pretty good guys everywhere in the heat. And one mistake, you're out of the feature, and then you're in a B main, and the last thing you want to do is be in a B main there. Like, Placerville is so tight, it's kind of hard to race. It's literally a sprint car version of Red Bluff, in my opinion. It's a little bit racier, and it's a little bit different because it changes differently, but and so that was like the biggest adjustment, as much as people would be like, oh, it shouldn't be as much of adjustment because you run karts, but it's like, no, the sprint car is it's just different. You're always in each other's grill at a place like that. So, like, we got racing a little bit, which was good because I got to kind of see, like, okay, when I lift, when I'm underneath him, like, what my car did, and then, like, where I gained momentum on him and where he gained on me. But other than that, that was my only interaction on racing someone throughout the night. Everything else was just laps by myself, technically, up until the main event.
I was going to say, definitely on Flo, you had an awesome entry and center, but he would get you on exit for sure. I think you just rotated more. But I thought, you're contending, like you look like you had decent speed there for your first time and literally rolling in as mud packs kind of starting to roll out.
For sure. And like in the heats too, as I mentioned, is so single file. So you're kind of fighting for that one lane. So if you can get someone out of that lane and you can stay in it, you can make passes in that way. Other than that, everyone kind of just gets on the freight train and goes, most weeks from what I've watched, and then just what we saw when we were there. Some others, it sounds like maybe it does widen out. So that was honestly one of my only complaints, is just how narrow the track was. And I know there's no way to really change it because they always have a good surface at the end of the night, which is cool. But if you don't qualify good, you're kind of screwed, which, I mean, that's also a lot of other places. So we go out for the A-main event, start 10th. And this is as the difficulty I talked about from earlier, running a hooked up track all night. Then they have a C main, they have a B main, they have all these other classes. Now the track's slick, and not being there before, I don't know what this is going to look like, So I'm just, every lap I'm trying to learn something. So I was kind of running around 9th and 10th the whole time. Never really gained any spots, never lost spots, kind of just like battled with some guys back and forth. And I wasn't really that good, but only just because I was still figuring it out. And my biggest frustration with how everything went was that I just never got the chance to get that experience, because I ended up restart 8 or 10 laps in, gained one spot. I think I was maybe in 9th, and I tried to go for 8th. Maybe it was 8th, maybe it was 10th. I don't know. We were all in the same roughly area. And I went to shoot under the car in front of me, and we made contact, and I got upside down. It shot me like into the berm. Well, actually, let me go through the whole straightaway. So like we come off of turn 4, the car in front of me slides up, and everyone was fighting for the bottom in 1 and 2. I got a run. I just went for it. There's something in me that was like, I think I can get this spot. And as I talked about Placerville, since it's so tight, it's hard to pass guys. Like, you have to work your tail off for 5 laps, it felt like, to pass a car. And what I was watching in front of me versus like, a place like Tulare, if you're better than everyone, you're going to pass them. You're going to pass them. But Placerville's a little bit different unless you're just elite and you've been running there for years and, you're really, that's just your place. But for someone like me, I was still figuring it out. So come off a 4, get a run, shoot to the inside of this car, or attempted to, realized it wasn't going to work, that I didn't show him enough that I was there. He chopped down. I kind of panicked, and I was like, shoot, I'm about to murder this guy. And then I clipped the infield, pretty soft rollover, but ended my night. So the only frustration, as I said, was just that I didn't get to experience the whole race, because that's really what I needed, just to continue getting better. But you live and learn for next time, and I will say Placerville can't even officially judge it because I just didn't get enough laps. But also, I feel like it's a place you can't judge without racing for like 5 to 10 times, because you got to see it differently every night, have your good nights, have your bad nights. There's things I really liked about the place. I think it can teach drivers how to drive really hard, how to make aggressive moves. Only things I didn't really like, just because I think it takes more to adjust to, is how tight it is. And once you figure that out, then it's good. But man, if you're a guy that's used to racing on big places and just, racing your own thing and running your own race, it's a lot harder to do that when you have 20 guys just surrounding you at all moments.
Yeah, well, I think, hopefully at some point, if I'm down there, you're down there racing too on the same night. That'd be pretty cool. But, at least you can feel a little bit comfortable rolling out, knowing your crew chief is one of the most winningest drivers at Placerville.
Oh, it helped. And I'm sure he had a good time. Brian had a good time too, getting to see all of his, old friends and guys, he raced with there for years. And it's a place I want to get back to. And I think we're going to really make an effort to try to do so in 2022. And they have a really good local scene of fans and people that just enjoy the place. So
they do. They pack it out.
And with, just such a nice facility, as we had said earlier too. So there's a lot of positives to the place, and we're going to make an effort to get back there and really continue to try to learn and build our program, especially on these smaller places, because I think that can really help as we travel to many tracks throughout the country that could have characteristics of all these different places out here on the West Coast. So that was kind of our last weekend. Got winded out on Saturday, went to Placerville, had some fun. And now, as we talked about earlier in the show, we are set to possibly run up in Washington this weekend, maybe California again. If everywhere rains out, we'll just be sitting here at home. It's Easter. We'll kind of have a good time and then continue our racing schedule. Moving on to the next thing, we have 2 more areas to touch on in today's show. The next, Bennett, you actually you won something recently?
Yeah, so it's funny when me and Tanner first started the podcast, we were talking about kind of guests to get on, and I was, I like supercars, and I love cars in general. I love auto racing and whatnot, but I follow GT World Challenge Tour. Well, there's also another part that's called GT World Challenge America. And their season opener is actually at Sonoma. So if you guys don't know, Sonoma, California is only like 3 hours from me or whatnot. And, I've been there for the NASCAR race. I've been there for IndyCar. I've seen, I want to say I've seen maybe bikes race there too, but I don't know. But anyways, they had this contest going on, just a classic like, follow, comment, done type of thing, and share to your story for bonus. So if you've seen me sharing them, I shared them because I got entry and won free tickets. I don't know. They said they're going to email me the tickets. I haven't gotten an email yet. So, well, we'll see. If I don't end up getting the free tickets I won, they made a post saying I won and everything and DM'd me. So I was like, okay. But if it doesn't happen, then for sure we'll probably be joining Tanner. But I'm hoping I get to go watch them because, I'm always going to be rooting for Team Lamborghini.
That would be sweet. And just like seeing different kinds of racing like that, and just the different like atmospheres it's all the same, but like, there's so many different forms and stuff that we don't get the chance to see all the time. Like, it's really cool to respect those guys. And, they put so much in just like we do, just, it's just like a different style.
Yeah, it's definitely a whole different style. I mean, it's road course race and they're supercars. And there's the one thing I like about this is so they're like 2-hour races and whatnot. They have qualifier races and then 2-hour races. But they also have like different divisions on the track at the same time. So not only are you racing, your division, you're racing other cars on the track. So I hope someday I could maybe turn a lap in one of them or in a race car like that or something, because I love Lamborghinis. I follow a lot of Team Lamborghini drivers that drive in like GT World Challenge Tour that race all over the world. But hopefully I get to go watch them. I think it'd be pretty cool to see them, live. I've seen what are they called? The prototype cars, like the Le Mans, like at Daytona, the Rolex.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen those at Thunder Hill at midnight. It's like midnight, 1 a.m. I've seen those cars, and I can't begin to explain to you how fast they are around turns, and like just they scream. Like they're so fast, and they're just glued to the ground. It's like someday if we can go watch IndyCar F1, I think we got to. Like,
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
so insane. Whereas, like, sometimes I feel like there's always, it's asphalt or this or that, but you got to respect the form of racing because it's so much more intense in that aspect. I still think sprint car racing is one of the most intense forms of racing, but for asphalt, I can't believe those cars go that fast around the corners so tight to each other.
I have to agree. I've thought about just the grip and how all that works together, and it's just crazy how those guys do it and how they make it happen. And speaking of asphalt racing, the next topic and what we're going to end the show on is something that has been Bennett and I always kind of like to end the podcast with like something NASCAR related because we are kind of Bennett's a big NASCAR fan. I've been watching more of it now that they've changed it up, and I'm like, man, it's really exciting. And on the Xfinity Series side of things, one of our favorite teams, Joe Gibbs Racing, their driver Ty Gibbs got into. Well, he's been stirring the pot the last couple of weeks, actually, I guess.
Yeah. Big time.
We got so like Bennett. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit over Snapchat, but we were like, all right, let's save it for the podcast. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Ty Gibbs incident at Martinsville?
So it's hard to say. I think Ty. I don't want to take anything away from Ty. I think Ty is a phenomenal driver. He's really fast. Obviously is ending for a win every weekend, and it seems like the next Xfinity race, if not winning. But there's also some moments that could you say almost relate to Kyle Busch, where it's kind of like,
Yeah,
I'm here, I'm fast, I've been winning. If you're in my way, it's pissing me off. And we saw that happen. I guess Sam Mayer was going for the $100,000 bonus. And if you watch the replay, for anyone that doesn't know, Ty Gibbs was behind Brandon Jones, running 1 and 2, green, white, checkered, while Sam Mayer was also going for second, and he was in third to pass Ty Gibbs to collect the $100,000 bonus. I think he had to pass someone or something like that. Well, in the process of doing so, the 10 car from Colleague Racing got under both of them, hit Sam Mayer into Gibbs, and pretty much wiped him off the wall. And I think that's Martinsville. I mean, if you've never raced on the simulator or literally watched any race in history of NASCAR, if you're 3 wide and you're on the outside, you're done. You're just not. You're getting wiped off the wall. So, anyways, he gets wiped off the wall. Well, Gibbs is fired up because I think he thought he had a shot at winning the deal when, KOs the back of Mayer after the checker, destroys his front end, and then on pit road, they just start. I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ty Gibbs went over to Sam Mayer, yelled at him.
Yes.
Started walking away. And Sam Mayer finally went back to him, and they're probably, yelling at each other for 10 seconds. And then Sam Mayer pushes Gibbs, and Ty Gibbs just starts swinging, closed fist. And I think this is the only thing, and I want to know your opinion on it. Everything would have been awesome, and I still think I would have been like, Gibbs had the right to be pissed, but why was his helmet on for 30 seconds? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I think he should have taken his helmet off right when he got out of the car, probably. I think
100%.
I think he should have just done that. Looking back, Ty Gibbs, I'll say, was the smart one because his helmet's on. He's swinging full fist at this guy, and the guy can't do much back. But yeah, I think it should be more standard. But I get in the heat of the moment, you're just getting out, your helmet's on, you walk over there. Because to me, honestly, I don't think Ty had intentions of wanting to fight. I actually don't think. I think he's probably just mad in the moment. And then, since Sam came back to him, like I think he said, he's like, I just exploded basically. Like I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I don't know if you heard this comment or whatever. So they were doing interviews after the fight or whatnot. And Gibbs said, I think at some point he's in my face. And at that point we got to start fighting. And so
yeah,
I thought that was like Dude, if that's not a Kyle Busch related saying right there, that was hilarious. But no, I don't know. It was funny.
It's kind of what I think it's what NASCAR needs. I mean, you know, I mean,
100%.
it's entertaining, it's cool, it's rivalries. You know, I like Ty Gibbs because I think you know, I don't know, like how he drives is interesting. I mean, he's there to win. He's not afraid to move a teammate. Like he does some crazy stuff, which is just it's exciting to watch. And he's a wheelman. So I agree with the people that say he can't be mad when he gets it back. But also I agree if you're saying Ty should be mad that he got moved out of the way and just kind of got shafted in general. It goes both ways. So I think you kind of just play all the sides. So like I said, if I'm Ty, you know what? Honestly, yeah, you probably do have words with Sam, but at the same time, you kind of deep down know like, hey, yeah, you know, a couple of these guys could have said this to me too, you know, after some of the situations that we've had.
It was.
Nonetheless, it's going to be interesting as the season moves on. I think this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I know they said that it was over and nothing's gonna come from it, but I think it's funny. One thing I always do is go to read the comments on NASCAR social media to see what the general fan base has to say about it. And I will say, as much as NASCAR wants to talk about, you know, we don't want the sports or fighting, there's going to be fines and all this. NASCAR social media sure does use that content to the best of their advantage. But yet sometimes the officials are against it. I'm not sure how that works, but I will say one of the funniest comments I saw is Ty Gibbs not only, you know, fought with his helmet on, he took after Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano in one fight because he had the helmet on, and he was like, "Oh, it's short track racing, we got to fight." So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and speaking of NASCAR fans, I think the other thing to point out, because I kind of feel like I do like Ty Gibbs. I feel like I saw a lot of hate his way, which I said I can understand. I just don't get how sometimes people say they want personalities in the sport, but then you have someone that I guess is just like a win at all costs, like makes it interesting, and he's throwing fists. Yes, his helmet's on, but like, you know, gives us something, and then people are like, they hate him, but that's also not a bad thing. I mean, that's right. You know, we need people to root for and against people, but just what an interesting ordeal. And yeah, we're gonna I'm sure we'll have more NASCAR related stuff to talk about in our podcast coming up.
I think if there's one fight I'm looking forward to, if something were to happen, it's gonna be Noah Gragson versus Ty Gibbs. I'm gonna have to go with Noah Gragson based on his track record, but also I like Noah. But no, the Xfinity series is obviously one of the premier races to watch every weekend.
For sure. And with that, that's going to wrap up this episode of Off the Track. So many great things covered. Love doing this show with Bennett. Thank you guys so much for listening. You guys can listen on anywhere you like podcasts, you know, Spotify, Apple Podcast, right here on YouTube. Bennett, thanks for doing the show again.
Yeah.
And we'll keep you guys updated as we kind of continue rolling through race season here in 2022.
Absolutely. I love talking to Off the Track.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.